just chill out.
I have to say that from the 60s and 70s, that is exactly the opposite of what my generation did. You know, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, and the Rolling, well, not the Stones necessarily, but
a little bit.
There were others. I mean, Woodstock, the Woodstock generation, everything was
music
political.
is a refuge for conservatives, though. You can't get any celebrity endorsements normally to come out for Republicans. You could always rely on some country singers to come out and put on a good show, at least in the campaigns I've been involved in. I will say that Taylor Swift has gotten a lot of heat for not getting political at all during this last election. People were very angry she didn't speak out one way or the other. So you can't, there's no way to win, it seems, in life right now. If you're too political, you're too supportive of Trump, people will blacklist you. If you don't say anything, people blacklist you too. So, like, what exactly are we expecting from our artists right now?
It should be a personal choice. It should be a personal choice, because I think some people feel a calling to speak out. They're like, this is my platform. I can't even stop myself. I need to talk about this. There are other people like Reba and everyone that find comfort in the fact that, like,
they don't have to.
Yeah, and they should never be, no one should be asked or pressured to, well, who'd you vote for? Or who'd you, these are private things. If you want them private, keep them private. If you want them public, it's well, you can't. Yeah,
that's the thing. There can be, but you know, well, yeah. I mean,
could lose your career.
Yes, for 5 or 8 years. Yes, I know that.
You know that.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
You experienced that.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
But that doesn't stop her.
Yeah, Whoopi experienced
I don't actually know that story.
Oh, I'll tell you.
That has not stopped Whoopi from doing what she does.
No, it has not.
And you know, we're in.
But it's this. And the reason I always say thank you to Barbara Walters is because no one was hiring me. I lost all endorsements, everything.
What?
And they were wrong
it's a long story. They were wrong, but it was easy. It's easier to say, you know, Whoopi said, and people believe it because they just assume I did. And so, because something was said about that I did something that I actually hadn't done. It's one of the rare occasions where I actually didn't do it. But got into, lost everything. Lost everything. So, you know, I was so grateful to Barbara because nobody would hire me, and she did. She did. So that's why I'm happy.
When you know, because the CMAs, I like the CMAs, and I like to watch them, and they're always apolitical. I was wondering if because the Las Vegas massacre occurred during a country music concert, right, like a festival, did people really feel
they did an amazing,
connected to it?
I believe several of the country artists were on stage together performing. It was
But my favorite country music artists are political. I mean, Johnny Cash, you know, Bring It On, my all-time favorite ever. Johnny and June were deeply political people. Obviously, you know, performing at Folsom Prison at the time was a very sort of controversial thing to do. So I do think, like, this sort of, I'm going to opt out forever. My personal favorite music does have a lot of politics in it.
Well, I think that in these times that we're living right now, which are serious and difficult and dangerous because of the person in the White House, I think it's incumbent upon all good people to speak out if they can.
Do you judge Taylor Swift for not?
I'm not judging. I'm just giving a suggestion.
Okay.
That's a real smile.
With that suggestion comes this: not everybody's cut out to do it.
Right.
But if it moves you, you know, feel free. If it doesn't, then you know, don't do it. But you know what we're not going to do? We're not going to linger like bad gas. We're going, and we'll be back with more. Joining Hot Topics right now with her take on what's going on in the world is ABC News Chief Global Affairs Correspondent. God, Martha, that's a long... So, we're only a year into you-know-who's presidency, but it's clear that other countries, including our allies, they feel a little nervous about him. They always look like this when I look at them. When he's standing next to them, they're like this. So do you...
Angela Merkel? Yeah. I mean, just check the video.
A little panicky. I mean, do you think he's hurting our standing in the world, or do our allies realize that we actually are listening and paying attention?
Well, I think it's certainly changed our standing in the world. I think it's puzzled people. I think they don't know where they stand sometimes, or where we're going as a country, or whether President Trump talks for the country, or whether there are people whispering in his ear. I think probably what they do is think whatever happens, we'll all survive. They're more focused on their own countries, I think, the same way that President Trump seems to be focused on what we do in this country. But I do. I mean, I travel around the world, and there's definitely a change in how we're viewed. And definitely a little nervousness.
Well, I think they're also perhaps nervous about the flip-flopping. You know, we saw an example in North Korea on his Asia trip. At first, he invited North Korea to make a deal, but then a day later, he warned them not to underestimate us. As to China, he said at first, you know, China is raping us in terms of rates, and then all of a sudden it was, actually, I'm not going to blame China. So who do we believe?
Which was pretty extraordinary statement. It's like, what?
In front of
you said this in the campaign.
It's like Chinatown. It's my sister. It's my mother. It's my sister.
I mean, that kind of flip-flopping, who are we to believe?
Well, I think in terms of, this is what I would say about North Korea. And I think it's something that everybody forgets. There's no other president who has had to deal with a North Korea that, if not already, any minute is going to be capable of putting a nuclear weapon on a ballistic missile that is capable of hitting the U.S. That's a whole different ballgame. Now, the one thing that I wish would happen is, instead of all the threats, instead of all this, and you know, you have to have a little threat behind your diplomacy sometimes, or people won't come to the table. I wish the American people knew more about what would happen if there is a war in Korea. Because you've got a lot of foreign policy experts saying there's a good chance this can happen. This would be like nothing else.
People don't seem to remember what happened when we dropped those bombs on Japan.
And you know, they're doing a lot of exercises over there. I've been there, I think I'm three, 4 times this year. I was just out on the USS Reagan, out in the Sea of Japan, watching these exercises and what they go through. The results of any of that would be horrific. And we're talking about South Korean lives, we're talking about Japanese lives, we are talking about the lives of American forces. And as much as President Trump says, you know, I'm not going to give away my plan, it should be debated what happens. It should be talked about, and people should know what it means.
Can anybody stop him, though, from pressing that button?
Well, he is the commander-in-chief. I believe if it got to that point, he would have had advice from Secretary Mattis, someone I know is just a solid, going to give President Trump the best advice possible, and obviously has a lot of background in that. But I you know, to your point, Sonny, too, on China, and that was such a surprise hearing him say, oh, it's not China's fault. I mean, he totally gave China a pass yesterday. He clearly wants China's help with North Korea. Everybody keeps saying China can help solve the problem, they can help solve the problem, but I'm not sure they really will add that much pressure to North Korea.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about the long road home, because it is fantastic, Martha. It is fantastic. It really is.
Thank you.
It's a mini-series on National Geographic based on your best-selling book about a tragic day known as Black Sunday. Please tell everyone what happened.
This was in April 4th, 2004. And I know it's hard for all of us to remember a time when we were shocked by the death of 8 soldiers. But this was a platoon. It was 18 soldiers and an Iraqi interpreter who thought they were on a reconstruction mission. The whole battalion did, from the 1st Cavalry Division. And instead, they were ambushed. And they were basically ambushed by the entire city. I mean, there were thousands and thousands and thousands of people who came out. They had just taken over. So they were trapped on a roof. 2 of their Humvees were burned up. Also, something we forget, a lot of the guys were in canvas-covered Humvees because they thought it was a peacekeeping mission. So they sent in these rescue squads, some of them in open truck. It chills me to see this recreation because it's so accurate. They rebuilt Soldier City, and they had those guys going in open trucks, you know, 18 guys in the back of a truck just under fire. And it was really a tidal wave of wounded.
We have a clip, though. You set that up nicely. So let's take a look at this.
Apparently, the men who attacked the Crusaders ambushed them using police uniforms. This is citywide, sir. There's no one else right now, just us. What are your orders, sir?
We launch. Now.
Sir, the Crusaders still have to complete Kazbek.
There's no time. It could take an hour, it could take several until they're back in the fight to target. Our guys don't have that long.
You know,
Incredible.
Martha, I know you have personally made connections with these soldiers' families. Can you tell me what their experience was like?
It has been honestly the most profound thing I've ever worked on, and most of that is because those soldiers, those sacred Gold Star families that we have dealt with. I started covering this for ABC News 13 years ago. I know a lot of these people today and remain so close to them. It has been a healing experience for them. I walked down that set, which is so realistic, with a Gold Star mom and the actor who plays her son, Ian Quinlan, both of us hugging this woman, holding her hand, and said, "Do you want to leave set? Because it's so realistic." And she said, "No, I want to feel what my son felt that last night." Oh my God. But you know, looking up into this dusty sky, and there was a full moon out, and just holding her, I mean, just loveliest families. And the soldiers, you know, a lot of them still struggle. I think it's another thing that people don't realize. Those families will always have that loss. You know, that woman's grandson is grown up, and you know, it is life-changing. Still, people deal with PTSD from this, but I know this has helped. We had wonderful consultants on this project, both veterans. One of them was trapped on the roof, Eric Burkwan, Aaron Fowler. The cast has been amazing. I mean, Michael Kelly, you saw there, just trying to portray these people, and many of them are still on active duty, which is, I don't know whether that's unprecedented that you have a film like this, a series like this, where people are still serving.
Well, you know what? You are always informative. You go everywhere, so we know that you're seeing what's happening. And I for one, am glad you're out there.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Long Road Home airs Tuesday night on National Geographic, and we'll be right back. So now, you know, these allegations of sexual assault keep coming out, and another was made against Kevin Spacey. And filmmakers are now removing him from his latest movie and reshooting his part with the actor Christopher Plummer. So the question, I guess, is, if one of his old movies comes up, would you have a hard time watching it?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I think, you know, after the Woody Allen allegations, I stopped watching his movies. I think there's a way to use your voice by using your pocketbook. And so, you know, that's always been my way. And I just think sexual harassment, sexual assault, it's just so serious. Yeah, it's just so serious.
Like when you hear, I've never been to a prison, but you watch a lot of movies. They're like the lowest rung on the ladder with how they're treated. I think it's very hard for people to get past when you're abusing children.
That's right.
And so I think for me, with this particular one, and I always loved him. I had his pictures up with Al Pacino in college because I loved really like amazing actors.
House of Cards.
I think it'd be hard for me to stomach it now. It's not with everyone. Not every accusation does this, but there are some that you just can't let yourself go past. You can't believe him anymore. Like and that's Kevin Spacey.
Well, his career might be over.
It's a conversation about separating art from the artist, though, which, again, I think is a conversation that's going on for hundreds of years and probably still will continue to go on. I am admitting this on national television. I still watch Woody Allen movies, and I feel guilty about it every time I do. I feel like I'm doing something wrong. But I really like his movies. And even some of the more recent ones that have come out, I remember going to the theater to see it and being like, I hope nobody sees me and is judging me for this, because I like the art he creates. And by the way, there's a bunch of people backing this financially, movie studios. So it's a catch-22, and I think you just have to take it at your behest.
It's a personal decision. Again, you know, it's a personal decision.
That being said, look past it. It's just
there are many artists with bad peccadillos.
Yeah. Even though I guess Woody Allen did, you know, similar to what Kevin
what is it?
Allegedly.
Ezra Pound,
allegedly.
The great poet Ezra Pound was a notorious anti-Semite. Wagner, notorious anti-Semite. People go to the Wagnerian opera. Everybody, people do go to see these great artists work.
I think for me it's personal because I prosecuted child sex crimes and I've seen the devastation.
Yeah.
You know, anyone that's accused of a child sex crime, I think it's just very serious.
Can I say one thing? Like, and again, this is is different when you're talking about like sex stuff, especially pedophilia.
Yeah.
That is, I agree, like a level below. But I remember having conversations about a lot of Hollywood actors don't like Republicans, you know, viscerally speak out in different ways about how much they think, you know, Republicans are awful. I came to a point where I was like, I got to tune it out, because if you're making good comedy, I do think that like cream rises to the top. And at some point, if I'm dictating what I watch based on politics, I'm going to end up like only watching Tim Allen, and that's it.
And as an actor, you know, listen, what I do as an actor has very little to do with my personal life.
Yeah.
And this is my art, and this is myself. You can judge me as Whoopi, but you don't have to like my movie. But if my movies are good and they make you laugh, you should see them. You don't have to worry about what I'm going to say in the movie or that's going to piss you off, because it's not me saying, it's the scripts that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So you know, there's a lot of folks, and if you look back in the history of films, you know, there's a lot of really dodgy folks. We're a dodgy bunch, the entertainment industry. But as it turns out, all industries seem to have the same issue.
Yeah.
They seem to feel people in power.
All industries.
People in power taking advantage of people.
It's
who are not.
interesting that they let. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying.
I mean, we have to say that Kevin Spacey says he's seeking treatment.
Oh,
So
yeah,
there is that.
You know, it's interesting that they allow Roman Polanski.
I mean,
Roman Polanski has been allowed to make films, even though he
that involves the child as well.
But there's I think it's because he's behind the camera and not on the screen that people are more repelled and repulsed by, let's say, watching Spacey than seeing a Roman Polanski movie, because he's not in the movie.
Right. Well, it'll be very interesting when they finally bring all these guys to trial. We'll be right back. Apparently, the tabloids are partying because it looks like, and we're not saying it's finished, but it looks like Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez. Oh my God, they might be back together again. And they're both like each other's first love. And apparently, like, a lot of people feel that this is like a great thing if you go back to the first person like you fell in love with.
Really?
And yeah. And so,
they're a lot
what do you think
closer
about
to
that?
age.
Right,
Because
than
if I
we
went
are.
back now, the changes of who I am, I don't.
Well, it
think
would
we'd
be hard for you to do it now.
What? If you-
Like, I don't want to like call you out or anything, but it's so different.
Some people are into this. So
yeah, that's the whole thing.
Yeah, but I think going back to someone, I'm so different that I look back and we would never make it a minute.
It's the remix. I have a girlfriend.
The remix.
The remix.
It's the recycle.
It's the
Be
recycle
green,
remix.
Sonny.
I have a girlfriend, Jill, who
Oh my God.
Don't hold back.
This is why your friends
Called
got
her
really
out.
pissed at you.
I know they do. They do.
Yeah,
I told
she
her,
just,
I told her one day I was
throw
going to
them
out
under
her.
the bus.
Hurry up.
She
what
does the remix a lot.
She recycles.
Like, she brings people, and I'm like, he looks so familiar. And then she's like, yeah, that was my boyfriend from 10 years ago. I'm like, why are you doing the remix again?
Why not?
You know, I don't know.
Well-
you broke up for a reason.
Yeah, but sometimes you
Right?
grow.
Yeah, I get
You
it.
broke up
Right?
for a reason.
I mean, you're the youngest amongst us.
Yes.
So,
Did you go back to
Do
your
you
first
do the
love?
remix?
No, but I'm like completely scorched earth. I'm like, you no longer exist.
Yes.
You died.
Yes.
We no longer talk.
Yes.
Like, I never want to see you. You saw me naked. We are dead.
Yes.
Never see me again.
Yes.
Yes. No.
If they see you naked,
Yeah,
you
no.
can't hang out with them anymore.
I'm always like, all my exes died in this weird bus crash. They were all together and went to a river. But I'm serious. I don't understand this concept. I move forward in life and all things in general. All
Right.
my exes, sorry, watch me on The View. The end.
Yeah.
she dropped the mic. Okay, Turley, watch me on The View. You're done. And you know what? That was really short and fun. And so we're gonna like go to break and we'll be back. Yesterday marked the 1-year anniversary of the new guy's victory, and he marked the occasion by tweeting this photo with the message, "Congratulations to all of the deplorables and the millions of people who gave us a massive electoral college landslide victory."
Oh, give it up already.
Apparently, those
You know,
voters
I-
feel the same way. They still give him high marks. They're not high, they're giving him high marks. And they said they would vote for him again.
Yeah. He's hanging on to these people for
82%
dear life, this guy.
You know what, though? Let's face it. I can completely understand why the Trump voters are still supporting him. Because, you know, one of the Trump voters said he's trying to do his job, but they just ain't letting him. Another one said he talks down to earth. He has been trying to fulfill the commitments he made to the citizens that elected him. Remember when Obama was, I remember when Obama was in his presidency, there was a lot of obstructionism going on. They weren't allowing him to do what I think he wanted to do, and I still gave him an A. I was still supportive of him.
But he got plenty done. This guy hasn't gotten anything done.
But it's only been a year.
You're saying in the beginking he wasn't.
He's not going to get health care reform. Tax reform looks very iffy. Where's the wall? I don't see the wall. Where's the wall?
But, oh yeah, I get it.
Sonny's right,
I get
though. Sonny's right. It's only been 9 months. The one thing I will say is I feel sort of like the Jane Goodall of Red America everywhere I go, where people are like, explain Trump voters to me. And there's this image of a Trump voter being sort of a, like, really red state, West Virginia coal miner. And it's not true.
That's not true.
Did you know that President Trump got a higher support among black men and Latino voters than my father and Mitt Romney?
Yeah.
There are all these districts, and I have it right here.
Together,
Michigan, Minnesota, Virginia, North Carolina, Maine, New York, and Wisconsin. Those are all Obama districts that Trump flipped. So when we look really deep into America, we have to understand, I think it's about poverty. I think it's about anger towards things not getting done. And I do think this 82%.
Some of it's racism. Let's call it.
I think that is so irresponsible.
Why?
Because I think when you blanket all Trump support,
Not
like
all. I said some. I said some.
When you say racism, what do you mean?
Is a factor in the support for him. It's obvious.
I think when you
because of the backlash from
he says
an Obama
he's
presidency?
racist, and people who follow him have to sign on to that, don't they?
But does it not? I just told you, Latino men and black men. I told you, Latino men and black men voted for Trump in a higher number than Romney and my father.
And I
so
said not all. I'm saying some.
Okay.
You don't think there was a racial component?
I think there is a component, but I think to sort of blanket it by saying, like, I think like when you see in Charlotte, North Carolina, like the riots are happening, you have to understand that it's a tiny, tiny, tiny. I think there were 300 people there. I'm not saying it's horrific. I'm not saying it's something that obviously some people feel more emboldened to come out. It's Trump's fault for not getting Steve Bannon out of office and not immediately condemning things. But I think to blanket it in any way as a bigger portion than I think is a tiny, tiny minority.
The interesting thing to me is that these people will blame the Republican Party for all of Trump's failures. 100%. So the Republicans are in deep water here because they can't win a primary
without him,
and they can't win the general with him. So they better get their act together.
Yeah, and that is true. That is 100% true.